Welcome to the Artist Forum. I'm Elliot Torres. My next guest has been a fixture of New York City nightlife since the mid-'80s. She is a media maven, performer, playwright, game show hostess, and has built a solid resume from it. Time Out magazine recently named her number 6 of the top 10 drag queens in New York City. Welcome to the show, Linda Simpson.
Thank you, Elliot. Not number 1, not number 2, but 6.
6, but top 10 nonetheless.
Yes.
You have a versatile career wearing many hats. And when did you decide to start to become a drag queen?
Well, probably, as you mentioned, mid-'80s, late '80s, really more so. And I guess, you know, it wasn't like a conscious, like, I'm going to be a drag queen decision. But I just became involved in a scene in the East Village that had drag at the center of it. And I sort of just got, you know, swept along.
Now, in the mid-'90s, I used to go out a lot. I used to go to Limelight, Tunnel, Club USA, and I remember, you know, going out felt like an event. How would you say New York City nightlife has changed since then?
Well, I'm not quite as connected to it now as I was then, when I was very, very involved with the nightlife. But I think, I mean, I'm not saying anything that we haven't heard a zillion times, just that, you know, Manhattan has become very gentrified and expensive, and there's a lot of people that are not pleased with having clubs or bars around them, especially clubs. So I think that the landscape has really lessened. You know, and Manhattan's very yuppie now, and so, you know, a lot of the catering is done to yuppies. And I don't want to take, you know, deny anyone if they're fun, but it certainly maybe isn't like the '90s when it was more of a bohemian crowd that was ruling.
Right. And I recently visited your exhibition, Pages, which it was a photo exhibition and also a book, which basically focuses on your late friend, Paige. Can you tell me a little bit about the exhibition and why you decided to focus on Paige specifically?
Well, thanks for going to the show. The book came about because I have gathered a lot of my photos from the late '80s and early '90s into a project that I call the Drag Explosion. And a couple of people who run a publishing company called Paradigm in Brooklyn heard about it. They came, we talked, decided be good to do a single focus, you know, small art book. And my photos of Paige were strong. So that's why Pages, the book, came out. And then the exhibit featured some of the photos that were in the book. And the gallery is Clamp Art Gallery, and I had shown in an art show, a group show, once before. So Brian, who owns the gallery, was a little familiar with my work already.
And I'm aware that a lot of the photos were from this, from the Drag Explosion. And when you were taking all these photos, did you consciously know that you wanted to eventually create a project or books from the photos, or were these just collections of photos you had and realized?
Well, it was all my photos, I would say, from that era, that late '80s, early '90s era, were just for fun. And it was kind of unusual for people to carry around cameras back then. And so my photos are kind of unique in that regard, and that a lot of that, you know, world that I was occupying was not really well documented in some ways. And so I didn't really regard the photos with that much importance for years and years. They just kind of were in storage in my house. And then sort of rather recently began thinking, hey, you know, these might make a good time capsule. And as a matter of fact, there are a lot of great photos. I mean, I'm not a professional photographer by any means, but I managed to get some really compelling photos with, you know, a lot of it being because of the subjects were very captivating. And my photos of Paige were especially good, but I have tons of great photos of a lot of really interesting people back then, especially from the drag and the nightlife set.
And what made Paige special for this project?
Well, first of all, she was, you know, a very beautiful person. She looked great. And we were friends. We were neighbors. Paige was transgender and really was the very first transgender friend that I had. And even in my drag queen circuit back then in the East Village, it was sort of, there wasn't a lot of knowledge about trans people. I mean, of course I knew about transsexuals and their lives, but not personally. So it was, Paige was really, I think, for a lot of people on that scene, the first trans person they really got to know and intimately. And so I think she kind of like demystified for a lot of people the trans lifestyle. I mean, she was bizarre and crazy and kooky, but she was also a very real person. And so I'm grateful to her for that, for, you know, having shared her life in that regard.
Right. RuPaul's Drag Race catapulted the drag culture into the mainstream. Do you think that now people are more aware of it, or it's become more visible that it's a more acceptable form of expression?
Yeah. I mean, I mean, RuPaul herself kind of catapulted drag into the mainstream twice. Because when Ru became famous in like 1992, I think it was, with her hit single Supermodel, that's really was the first wave of media attention towards drag. There was a lot of pop culture projects, etc., that revolved around drag. That's how I got the name The Drag Explosion, because drag was so popular at that point. And then it kind of went on hiatus, and RuPaul's career herself, for her, she went on hiatus too with her career. And so I think RuPaul's Drag Race, yeah, it did bring about this new revival of drag. And yeah, of course it's more acceptable. You know, there was already groundwork, you know, back like in the 90s and stuff that helped make it more acceptable. And also, you know, the media is different now. Back then, whoever you were, you had to kind of wait for the media to discover you. So, you know, when we were drag queens and the TV shows and the movies and the videos came to us, it was great. You know, they discovered us. Now you can kind of create your own stardom, you know, through YouTube or websites, etc. And I think a lot of the queens that are actually contestants on RuPaul's Drag Race have made their presence known even before getting on the show, just by kind of, you know, creating this personality that's not just based around clubs and bars.
Right. And what can we expect from you next?
Me? Well, I'm actually working on another book now. The publishers of Pages want to team up, perhaps, with another publisher and do a bigger book that's kind of about my whole drag explosion photos. But primarily, I have it as a slideshow right now. It's like a slideshow extravaganza, and I go around and I narrate the history of this era, and it's done to music, and it's with all my photos, and it's fun, hopefully, and, you know, educational. And so the book would be sort of a, you know, would be like a kind of a print version of that. It'll be different. We're still kind of in the beginning stages.
So do you think, do you have long-term goals with your photography besides this project, or do you?
Honestly, it's more like I have goals with the archive of photos I have. I'm not a photographer, and I don't think that I would be pursuing photography.
Gotcha.
Still, I mean, I mean, it might be interesting for me to experiment with it, but I have writing projects and performance projects. I mean, I have lots of stuff in mind, you know, that I want to pursue. But as far as my rich archival goes, I'd like to do the book, you know, if I can expand the slide. I want to bring the slideshow to colleges, and I've already done it at a couple of colleges, and I want to do it more. You know, like Pages, which was featured in an art gallery. I'd love to see some of those photos featured in another exhibit. And, you know, so there's tons of stuff that could be done with the photos, too.
Well, I'm sure we'll definitely see more of your work, and, you know, the word will get out there, and hopefully we'll see more of that. So I know that you're a game show hostess, so I wanted to turn the tables on you and play a little game.
Oh.
So a little fill in the blank, and you know, also I want you to choose.
Are there prizes, Elliot?
So the first one is New York City is fill in the blank.
I have to fill in the blank?
Yes.
New York City is capital of the world?
Madonna or Cher?
Madonna or Cher? Well, I guess. You mean like, all right, Madonna, and I don't even know what I'm answering.
I create because.
I create because I find it very satisfying.
Grindr, Scruff, or Tinder?
Can I say neither? None of the above?
Okay, that's all the time we have. Thank you for playing the game.
What a great last question.
Thank you for joining us. And if you'd like to learn more about Linda Simpson, please visit her website at lindasimpson.org. Thank you for being here with us on the Artist Forum. I'm Elliot Torres. The Artist Forum. Get connected, be heard. The Artist Forum is a place where artists of all disciplines can network, collaborate, and exchange information and ideas. You want to know when to catch us? Well, then log on to tvguide.com's local listing section. You can also see us live on the web via Manhattan Neighborhood Network's MNN.org. On the Artist Forum, you'll see interviews with New York City's emerging talents in theater, dance, music, the visual arts, as well as the written word. We'll jump the velvet rope to get interviews with entertainment industry's top insiders, as well as some of its underground talents. Expose yourself to the Artist Forum. Show us your work. Invite us to your performance. Do you have questions about the business? Do you need help better focusing on your career? Or maybe you just want to post information about an upcoming project? Well, log on to our website, theartistsforum.org. The Artist Forum, on the pulse of community activities and events. I'm Elliot Torres, and I'll see you on the Artist Forum.
Hi, I'm music producer Bill Coleman, and you're watching the Artist Forum.
I'm writer-director Kristen Merning, and you're watching the Artist Forum.
Everybody has a dream. Mine was to see the ocean. And with a little help, I made it.
All right, you ready for some baseball trivia?
Let's do it.
What year produced the most no-hit games in the big leagues?
7 no-hitters in 1990.
Wow, that's right. Now a question that's not trivial. How many children will witness bullying this year? The answer, 3 out of 4.
75%?
That's right. How many of them will say something?
Kids want to help, but don't know how. Teach them how to stop bullying and be more than a bystander at stopbullying.gov.
Every artist, regardless of industry, has to think of their brand strategy, which is where my next guest comes in. Gabrielle Gerwitz is the owner of Inside Wide boutique design firm, which always focuses on the ever-daunting task of creating strategy. Welcome to the show.
Thank you. Good to be here.
So for our audience, can you please tell us what is branding and why does it matter for an artist?
So branding is like your calling card. It's your logo, your image. It can be anything from the way that your name always shows up as an artist, to the packaging on your CD cover, to the type of photography that's taken for your promotions, your marketing campaigns, and it filters all the way down into video, everything. So if you think of Madonna or someone like that, or David Bowie, if you want to go back further, they had a very distinct image, or they do have a very distinct image and brand. And so when you see her name, you know exactly who you're dealing with. You see her videos, you know they're going to be great. It's their image, and it's also the quality of the work that they do.
And what differentiates Inside Wide from other agencies?
Well, we are based, it's 2 people actually. It's me and my husband are the basis of the company. And both of us have a fine art background, and we're also both musicians. So when we work with artists, we know exactly where they're coming from, whether they're poets, musicians, fine artists, writers, whatever. We totally understand what it's like to try to get into that mindset and find what it is that they want to be. And unlike a lot of agencies, because we're small, we work with independent artists, a lot of independent artists. So we are the agency that you would come to when you're getting your start. really. At least that's what we've become. And we've gotten to see some of our artists take off, which has been great.
So how is it, for example, with social media and everything, and artists have a lot of access to that, what do you offer that can take them to the next step or further than what they can do themselves?
Well, usually when we have somebody come to us, this is a perfect example. We got a call last week from someone who used to be signed by a label, and they got let go, and now they're doing it on their own. And they're completely lost. I know how to write songs. I know how to make music in the studio. That's where I'm done. And so we talked to them about, well, you should have a website so people can find you. You need to have a Facebook page. It's great to have a YouTube channel. Even if in the beginning you can't produce your own videos, well, you know, have someone shoot you at your gigs. For painters, it's the same thing. You know, if you are just starting to show, even if you don't have a show, get your work up online, get your work on Facebook. People have such a great access to information now, and it's such a do-it-yourself market these days that there's so many things that they can do now that they could never have done even 10 years ago, which is just incredible, especially with Facebook. You create a page, you get all these likes, people start liking across, not just in the States, but all over the world. So what used to be where you'd have to focus on local marketing, it's become this whole global thing instantly. And so if they can get the right imagery out there, if they can get the graphics, everything besides their work, so when people see them, they recognize them, it's just incredible what can be done now. So we usually advise them about how to go about it.
Gotcha. And
Yeah.
how do you decide, for example, what's right for particular artists? If they're in a different music genre, from genre to genre, how would you decide, you know, this is right for this person and this is right for that person?
It really starts with the music. Whenever I start working with a new musician, I ask them to give me recordings of their songs, even if they're not finished yet. And we spend about 3 to 5 days just listening over and over and over again, trying to find what makes them different, what's their nuance, what colors come out of their music, what visions come out of their lyrics. If they're an instrumental artist, what landscapes are formed by the music. We've done a lot of classical albums as well. Children's artists, what kind of image are you trying to have the kids take away? Are you a hipster kind of musical artist, or are you, a feel-good rainbow and stars kind of musical artist? So the music is what defines us from the beginning. And then from there, we start talking to them and asking them questions. Well, what do you feel comfortable with? What do you want to project as your image? Not what you think you're supposed to be, but what are you at the core? What makes you different from other artists? And that's where we start from. So.
And how, for example, how do you help people stand out? Like in the sea of social media, in the sea of like so many artists out there, how do you help them stand out so that people can know that they exist?
Well, it really comes down to the graphics. For CD covers, we try to get them to push it as much as possible, not being risque. That is something that if an artist wants to do, we'll go with that. But really it comes down to because these are all independent artists. So it comes down to the individual's personality to come out in the graphic design of what we do. One of the artists that we worked with, and now she's just on the Billboard charts everywhere, is Sylvia Tosin. And when she first started, she was sort of teetering on this new agey, AAA kind of genre. And she's got this beautiful voice, and she had these great songwriters backing her up. Julie Flanders and Emil Adler from the October Project, which I don't know if you heard about them before. They were signed to EMI years ago.
Okay.
And they're still, I do graphic design for them as well. But her music was very ethereal and very, you would just get lost in her voice. And so when she first started, she really wanted to have that be part of her image. She also has this very kind of world music vibe to her. Mm-hmm. And so her next record was this whole album of people's, what's the word? National anthems.
Ah, okay.
And she used to sing for the USO. So she took that experience and created these national anthems, and instead of it being all this kind of American-looking or, European-looking graphics, we made it all about the landscapes of the country, and she was mixed into the landscapes of the country, and so that landed up winning an independent award for graphic design, besides the music being phenomenal. And she ended up going to China and performing and all of this stuff. And the next record that she did, she wanted to do a whole album of original music. And so we really spoke about, well, what is this going to be? This was her launching pad for this more pop, less new agey, still AAA, but pop AAA, slowly going into the dance genre of music. And she had this thing about Venus on the half shell. So we decided to try to bridge the organic with the electronic. And so we did a Venus on the half shell illustration, which was done both by hand and in the computer. So it bridged the two.
I think actually we have that on the
Oh,
monitor
there we
right
go.
now.
Yeah, it bridges the two worlds of doing traditional media and digital media, which is what her music was doing. And she's completely, she has this great lead into the fashion industry also and the DJ world. So there was a budding designer who loves dressing her in her clothes, so we took advantage of that. But we also wanted to take advantage of her natural beauty. At the time, as you can see, she had this beautiful long hair, very Venus looking. And so I was like, well, let's get you in the studio and take advantage of that.
Right.
Let's take some great shots. And she was like, okay, and from it we got, we came up with this whole thing with dragonflies. And so from that, she does this dragonfly series now online. She's got her own label now, Sea to Sun Recordings. She's totally switched genres into the pop world, and that was her starting point. We just kept pushing it, but it kept the integrity of who she was as an artist.
Right.
And that's one of the things that having been an independent artist myself, I stress with everyone I work with. Don't do anything you don't feel that you feel uncomfortable with, and keep the integrity like they do with their music. It's the same thing. This is a reflection of your music. It's a reflection of you. Another artist we work with is Lauren O'Brien. She started out as a poet, and she would go to the poet jams that they have at the Bowery Poetry Club, and she's very aggressive and in your face and sexual, and she started taking that energy and she put a band behind her. And so she would get up and make people in the audience feel uncomfortable while she was doing this stuff, but her lyrics, her words were phenomenal. So she wanted to get across this kind of edgy, not such a bad girl, but kind of a bad girl image. And so she hooked up with this photographer, John Maislish at the time, and he did this great cross-processing, and we took cues from that, and her songs, they're just phenomenal. And we did her website and her CD design and this logo that was edgy but very feminine at the same time, like she is. And it just took her to the next level. And she just released about, I think it's been 6 months or maybe more, she did an EP where she went towards the singer-songwriter front. So she said, I still want to be edgy, but I want to be more feminine. And so her next iteration was this whole pink campaign with her with these blue wings on and the same big heels and ripped, thing. Oh my God, I'm terrible with words. Her, the stockings, ripped stockings and all this stuff. And it just blew up. It was wonderful. So she's doing great.
Nice.
She's doing great, yeah.
That's good to hear. What advice would you give to young artists that are, want to focus on their brand strategy but are on a tight budget?
The best advice I would give them is, no matter what, even with Facebook, it's great to have a website. And you can do that so cheaply now as an artist. There are great tools that are all-inclusive, all-in-one design and server type things, like there's Bandzoogle, there's Wix, there's Host Baby. These are 3 of the top ones that I've seen. And for between $100 to $120 a year, you get a website. They offer templates. You can sell your music without a third party. You can have your videos on your website. You can have your calendar on your website. They also offer email integration, so you can do these beautifully designed HTML emails and send them out to your fan base. They offer databases for you, and it's all inclusive, and you do not need to be a programmer to know how to use them. And it's a great beginning until you have a budget to take it to the next level. The other thing that you can do is CD Baby, not CD Baby, Oasis CD, or places like Disc Makers offer discount low-run packages for new artists as well. If you can't afford graphic design, find a friend who's a budding designer and have them do it for you. They'll get the experience they need, which is what I did when I started out. I designed CD covers for free when I really wanted to get into this type of branding. And you get a beautifully designed package that you couldn't do on your own. So use all your resources is basically what you should do.
Nice. Well, that's
Yeah.
great advice. We're actually out of time, but
Okay.
I want to thank you so much for being here with us
Thank you
today.
for having me.
And if you'd like to know more about Gabrielle or hire her for your next project, please visit insidewide.com. I'm Elliot Torres, and we'll see you next time on the Artist Forum.